Captain Lee Minho's hands gripped the control panel as the massive colonial ship New Dawn shuddered through Kepler 442b's upper atmosphere. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge while the ship's hull groaned under atmospheric pressure. Behind him, the awakening chambers hummed as 500 colonists slowly emerged from their 18-month cryosleep, their faces pale and confused. "Atmospheric composition looks good, Captain," Dr. Park Ji-won called out from her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays showing oxygen levels and temperature readings. 21% oxygen, stable nitrogen base. We can breathe down there without suits. Engineer Kim Soo-jin wiped sweat from her forehead as she monitored the landing thrusters. The ship's engines had been pushed to their limits during the long journey from Earth, and she wasn't sure they'd hold together for a controlled descent. "Captain, I'm reading some unusual energy signatures from the surface. Could be mineral deposits, but the patterns are too regular." Through the bridge's massive viewport, Kepler 442b stretched out below them like a blue-green jewel. Vast oceans sparkled under the light of twin suns, while continents covered in purple vegetation promised fertile ground for crops. Rivers snaked through valleys that looked perfect for settlements. After Earth's pollution and overcrowding, this world seemed like paradise. "Take us down to 3,000 meters, Minho ordered, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. As mission commander, he carried the hopes of humanity's first major colony on his shoulders. Earth's resources were nearly exhausted, and this planet represented their species' future. The ship descended through wispy clouds, and colonists pressed. Against viewing ports throughout the vessel, children who had been only 5 years old when they left Earth were now 7, having grown during cryosleep. Families hugged each other, pointing excitedly at their new home below. "Sir, you need to see this," Navigator Yoon Seung-min's voice, cracked with disbelief. As they broke through the cloud layer, the truth hit them like a physical blow. Massive geometric structures rose from the planet's surface, stretching kilometers into the sky. These weren't natural formations or ancient ruins. They pulsed with blue energy, their surfaces covered in complex patterns that shifted and changed. "Like living circuits." "Those are cities," whispered Communications Officer Jang Hyejin, her hand frozen over the radio controls. "Active cities." The structures were unlike anything in human architecture. Crystalline towers twisted into impossible spirals, connected by bridges that seemed to float without support. Energy fields shimmered between buildings, and small craft moved between them with fluid grace. Whatever species had built these cities possessed technology far beyond human understanding. "Captain, I'm detecting massive power readings," Kim Soo-jin reported, her voice tight with worry. "These structures are generating more energy than our entire ship uses in a year. We are dealing with a highly advanced civilization." Minho's mind raced through protocols. First contact situations were theoretical back on Earth. No one had expected to find intelligent life on their new home. The planet's deep space scans had shown no signs of technology or radio signals. "Dr. Park, any signs of the inhabitants?" he asked. "Scanning now," she replied, adjusting her instruments. "I'm detecting movement within the structures, but the energy fields are interfering with detailed scans. Whatever lives down there, they know we're here." The city's energy output just increased by 30%. Suddenly, sleek aircraft emerged from the largest city. They moved without visible engines, flowing through the air like liquid metal. Their design was elegant, yet alien, with surfaces that reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Multiple contacts approaching," announced Weapons Officer Park Min-seok, though his voice carried more awe than alarm. "They're not showing hostile intent, just observing." The alien craft circled the New Dawn at a respectful distance. Through the viewport, the colonists could see beings moving within the transparent sections of the vessels. They were tall and graceful, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed carved from living crystal. "Open a channel," Minho decided. "All frequencies." "Channel open, sir," Hyejin confirmed. "This is Captain Lee Minho of the human colony ship New Dawn. We come in peace, seeking a new home for our people. We were unaware this world was inhabited." Silence filled the bridge. Then, in perfect Korean, a voice responded, "Welcome to Kethmore, children of distant stars. We have been waiting for you." The colonists throughout the ship gasped in amazement. How could these beings speak their language? Your arrival was foretold in our ancient records, the voice continued, melodic, yet somehow mechanical. We are the Kethmori, guardians of this world for 10,000 of your years. Your species shows promise, but first you must prove worthy of sharing our realm. Minhyo exchanged worried glances with his crew. They had come seeking an empty world to colonize, but instead found themselves as guests in an alien empire. Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo adjusted his diplomatic uniform as the shuttle Harmony descended toward the largest Kethmori city. Through the transparent hull, he watched crystalline spires grow larger, their surfaces pulsing with patterns of light that seemed almost alive. Beside him, linguist Yang Minji clutched her translation device, while security chief Kang Do-yun kept his hand near his sidearm, though they all knew human weapons would be useless against such advanced beings. Remember, we're guests here, Hyun-woo reminded his team as their shuttle was guided by invisible forces toward a landing platform. These beings have ruled this sector for thousands of years. One wrong move could doom our entire colony. The landing platform materialized beneath them, formed from the same crystal material as the buildings. As they stepped out, the air shimmered with energy fields that made their skin tingle. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the twin suns cast strange shadows that seemed to move independently. Waiting for them were 3 Kethmori beings, each standing nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies appeared carved from living diamond, with faces that reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. Energy flowed through channels in their crystalline skin like glowing blood. The central figure wore what looked like a crown of flowing light. "I am Elder Vextar," the being spoke, its voice resonating like crystal bells. "You will explain why your species dares to claim our world." Minji's translation device remained silent. The Kethmori were speaking perfect Korean, but their tone carried centuries of cold authority. "Honored Elder," Hyun-woo began, bowing respectfully, "we came here believing this world was uninhabited. Our deep space scans detected no signs of intelligent life. We seek only to find a new home for our people, as our own world is dying." Vextar's crystalline features shifted, showing what might have been contempt. "Your primitive sensors cannot detect silicon-based consciousness. We have observed your kind for decades, watching your chaotic expansion across the stars. Organic life forms are always the same, desperate, short-lived, and destructive." Around them, more Kethmori appeared, floating down from higher levels of the city. Their movements were fluid and graceful, like dancers made of living light. Some carried devices that hummed with unknown energy, while others seemed to control technology through thought alone. "We have watched 17 species attempt to colonize worlds in this sector," another Kethmori stated, its voice like grinding stone. "All failed. Your carbon-based existence is fundamentally flawed. You reproduce rapidly, consume resources without thought, and wage war over trivial differences." Do-hyun tensed, but Hyun-woo raised a calming hand. "Perhaps we can learn from your wisdom. Our species has made mistakes, but we have also shown the capacity to grow and change." Elder Vextar gestured, and holographic images filled the air around them. They showed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, organic beings who had reached for the stars, only to destroy themselves through war, disease, or environmental collapse. "This is the fate of all flesh-based life," Vextar declared. Brief sparks in the darkness quickly extinguished. "We Kethmori have endured for millennia because we transcended such limitations. Our consciousness exists in quantum crystalline matrices, immune to disease, aging, and death." But as the elder spoke, Minji noticed something strange. Tiny fractures appeared and disappeared across the Kethmori's crystalline skin, like stress cracks in glass. The flowing energy beneath their surface flickered occasionally, and their voices sometimes carried a subtle distortion. "Your technology is impressive," Hyun-woo said carefully, "but surely there is room in this vast galaxy for both our species to coexist. We seek only a small portion of this world to build our homes." "Coexistence requires equality," Vextar replied coldly. "What can your primitive species offer beings who have mastered the fundamental forces of reality? You breathe, you eat, you die. We are eternal." The meeting continued for hours, with the Kethmori displaying their mastery over matter and energy. They showed how they could reshape crystal structures with thought, how they communicated through quantum entanglement across vast distances, and how they had built cities that had stood for 10,000 years. Yet throughout the demonstration, Minji kept noticing the subtle signs of decay. Energy fluctuations in their bodies, microscopic cracks that appeared and vanished, and moments when their perfect coordination seemed to falter. Later, back aboard the New Dawn, Dr. Park Ji-won analyzed the data Minji had secretly recorded with her enhanced sensors. What she discovered sent shockwaves through the command team. "The Kethmori are dying," she announced to the gathered officers. "Their quantum consciousness matrices are breaking down. I'm detecting a cascade failure pattern spreading through their crystalline structures. It's like a plague, but affecting their fundamental essence." Captain Lee Minho leaned forward. "How long do they have?" "Based on the decay rate, maybe 50 to 100 years before complete consciousness collapse. They're trying to hide it, but their species is facing extinction." The revelation changed everything. The Kethmori's hostility wasn't just species superiority. It was the desperation of a dying race watching yet another species arrive to inherit what they could no longer maintain. They need our help, Hyunwoo realized, but their pride won't let them admit it. The crystalline council chamber fell silent as Elder Vextar's words echoed through the vast space. Ambassador Choi Hyunwoo felt the weight of 500 human lives pressing down on his shoulders as he processed the impossible challenge. Around them, dozens of Kethmori floated in meditation poses, their bodies pulsing with dim light that flickered like dying stars. "You offer us a test we cannot refuse," Hyunwoo said carefully, "but also one we cannot afford to fail." Elder Vextar's crystalline face shifted into what might have been a smile, though it looked more like light refracting through broken glass. 7 species have attempted this challenge before you. The Zephyrians brought their mastery of biological manipulation. The Quantum Collective offered their computational power that could simulate entire galaxies. The ethereal minds contributed their ability to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Holographic images materialized around the chamber, showing the previous challengers. The Zephyrians appeared as graceful beings with wings that sparkled like stardust. The Quantum Collective existed as pure energy contained in mechanical shells that defied physics. The ethereal minds flickered between visible and invisible states, their forms constantly shifting between realities. "All failed," Vextar continued, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Each brought their greatest strengths, their most advanced technologies, their deepest understanding of the universe. Yet the plague that consumes our consciousness matrices remains unsolved." Dr. Park Ji-won stepped forward from the human delegation. Despite being surrounded by beings who could manipulate matter with thought, she showed no fear. "What exactly is this plague? How does it manifest?" A younger Kethmori, whose crystalline body showed more obvious fractures, floated down to address her. "I am Keeper Nixhal. The plague began 3 centuries ago as microscopic quantum disruptions in our consciousness cores. It spreads like infection, causing memory fragmentation, loss of coordination between our collective minds, and eventually complete neural dissolution." The Keeper gestured, and their body became transparent, revealing the intricate quantum matrices within. Dark spots moved through the crystalline structures like shadows, consuming the bright energy pathways. Watch as it progresses. The demonstration was horrifying. As the dark plague spread, sections of the Keeper's consciousness grid went dark. Their voice became distorted, their movements jerky, and their ability to maintain physical form weakened. "We have tried everything," Elder Vextar declared. "Quantum restructuring, consciousness transfer protocols, even attempting to merge with organic neural networks. Nothing stops the decay." Dr. Park exchanged glances with her team. Biochemist Han Youngmin looked overwhelmed by the alien technology, while quantum physicist Nam Yuna frantically took notes on her tablet. They were being asked to solve a problem that had stumped civilizations far more advanced than humanity. 30 days, Vextar announced. "You will have access to our medical facilities and research archives, but understand this, we will not hand you the solution. You must earn it through your own understanding and innovation. The research facility they were given was a marvel of Kethmori engineering. Walls of living crystal responded to thought, displaying complex quantum equations in three-dimensional space. Holographic projectors showed the plague's progression at the molecular level, while quantum microscopes revealed details smaller than atoms. "This is incredible," Han Jungmin whispered, running his hands along a control surface that felt warm and alive. "Their technology is like magic," but Nam Yuna frowned as she studied the data. "Magic that's failing them. Look at these power fluctuations. Even their equipment is affected by the plague." The first week proved frustrating. The human team struggled to understand Kethmori quantum biology, which operated on principles completely different from carbon-based life. Every time they thought they grasped a concept, the alien nature of silicon consciousness threw them off track. "We're thinking about this wrong," Dr. Park realized during their second week. "We keep trying to apply human medical knowledge to silicon-based quantum consciousness. But what if the solution isn't medical at all?" Engineer Kim Soo-jin joined the research team, bringing her expertise in ship systems and energy management. "Their consciousness matrices remind me of our ship's quantum computers," she observed. "What if this plague is actually a software problem disguised as a hardware failure?" The breakthrough came when young colonist Lee Hana, barely 16 and fascinated by the alien technology, accidentally interfaced with a Kethmori learning device. Her human neural patterns created unexpected resonances in the quantum matrix, temporarily stabilizing areas affected by the plague. "The girl's organic neural activity is acting like an error correction protocol," Nam Yuna explained excitedly. "Human consciousness operates on chaos theory. We thrive on unpredictability and adaptation. The Kethmori consciousness is too ordered, too perfect. When the plague introduces chaos, they can't adapt." With only 5 days remaining, the human team worked frantically to develop their theory. They discovered that the plague wasn't truly a disease. It was an evolutionary pressure that the Kethmori's perfect crystalline minds couldn't overcome. Their consciousness had become so refined and ordered that they'd lost the ability to adapt to change. "We need to teach them chaos," Dr. Park announced. "Human randomness might be the key to their survival." Elder Vextar listened to their preliminary findings with growing interest, though his crystalline features revealed nothing. The other 6 species had focused on fighting the plague directly. Only humans had suggested that the solution might require embracing imperfection. The final test would require a volunteer from both species to undergo a dangerous consciousness-linking procedure that had never been attempted before. Dr. Park Ji-won stared at the holographic display, showing the plague's progression through Keeper Nixhal's consciousness matrix. For 3 weeks she had watched the same pattern repeat, the Kethmori trying to fight the infection like a virus, using increasingly powerful quantum weapons that only made the damage worse. "We've been looking at this completely wrong," she announced to her team in the research lab. The crystalline walls pulsed with soft light as her words activated the room's translation protocols. "This isn't a disease, it's evolution." Engineer Kim Soo-jin looked up from the quantum interface she'd been studying. Her hands were covered in what looked like liquid starlight, the Kethmori's version of circuit boards. "What do you mean?" "Look at the pattern." Dr. Park manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the dark areas spreading through the crystal matrix. "The plague doesn't destroy randomly. It targets the most rigid, unchanging parts of their consciousness first. It's trying to force adaptation." Programmer Shin Tai-hyung, who had been working with young Lee Hana to decode Kethmori computational systems, suddenly straightened. "That makes sense. In our computer systems, we use chaos algorithms to prevent stagnation, random mutations that keep the system flexible." Hana, barely 16 but gifted with an intuitive understanding of alien technology, pointed at the display. "The Kethmori consciousness is like a perfect crystal, beautiful but brittle. When you try to bend it, it breaks instead of flexing." The research chamber fell silent except for the humming of quantum processors. Outside the transparent walls, they could see Kethmori citizens floating between the city's spires, their movements graceful but eerily synchronized. Every gesture was precise, every action calculated to perfection. That's their weakness, Dr. Park realized. 10,000 years of perfect order has made them unable to handle chaos, but chaos is what life needs to survive. Kim Soo-jin activated a holographic workbench, her engineering mind already racing ahead. So we don't fight the plague, we teach them to work with it, like teaching a rigid tree to bend in the wind instead of breaking. The next breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While the adults debated complex theories, Hana had been playing with a broken Kethmori learning device, trying to fix it using human intuition rather than logical protocols. Her random button presses and creative problem-solving had somehow stabilized the device's quantum core. "I don't understand why it works," she admitted, showing them the repaired device. "I just tried things that felt right. Sometimes I made it worse, but then I'd try something completely different and it would get better." Shin Tae-hyung examined the device's modified code. "She's introduced randomness into their perfect system. Look at these neural pathways. They're chaotic but stable. It's like jazz music compared to their classical symphony." Dr. Park felt excitement building in her chest. What if we could create a hybrid system? Combine human creativity with Kethmori processing power. Our chaos could give them the flexibility they need to adapt. The team worked feverishly through the night, designing a prototype consciousness bridge. It would require a human volunteer to link their organic neural patterns directly with a Kethmori quantum matrix. The human brain's natural chaos would act like an immune system, helping the crystalline consciousness adapt to the plague's changes. But the risks were enormous. No organic mind had ever interfaced directly with Kethmori quantum processing. The volunteer could lose their sanity, their memories, or their life. Even worse, they might contaminate the Kethmori consciousness with human irrationality. "I'll do it," Hana volunteered immediately when they explained the procedure. "Absolutely not," Dr. Park said firmly. "You're barely 16. We can't ask a child to risk her life." "But I'm the only one who successfully interfaced with their technology," Hana argued. "Besides, kids are better at adapting to new things. Adults get stuck in their ways, just like the Kethmori." Captain Lee Min-ho arrived as they debated. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding humanity's first interstellar colony. "What's the situation, Doctor?" Dr. Park explained their discovery and the proposed solution. The captain listened in silence, occasionally glancing at Hana, who stood with the determination of someone far older than her years. "The previous 6 species failed because they tried to impose their solutions on the Kethmori," Kim Soo-jin added. "We're proposing true partnership, human and alien consciousness working together." Elder Vextar materialized in the chamber, his crystalline form flickering with interest. "We have monitored your progress. Your approach is unprecedented. No species has ever suggested voluntary consciousness merger." "Because it's insane," admitted Shin Tae-hyung. "But sometimes insanity is exactly what's needed." The elder studied Hana with his faceted eyes. "You would risk your young mind to save our ancient race?" "Why?" Hana stepped forward without fear. "Because that's what humans do. We take crazy risks for people we care about, even people we just met. The previous volunteers were warriors, scientists, philosophers," Vextar noted. "You offer us a child." "I offer you hope," Hana replied simply. "And hope is something kids are really good at." The preparations began immediately. They had only 3 days left in their 30-day deadline, and the consciousness bridge would take time to construct. But for the first time since arriving on Kepler 442b, the humans felt they might actually succeed. The consciousness bridge hummed with energy as young Lee Hana lay on the crystalline platform, neural interface cables connecting her human brain to the massive Kethmori quantum matrix. Elder Vextar floated beside her, his diamond-like form pulsing with nervous energy as preparation for the unprecedented mental link began. "Are you ready, child?" Vextar asked, his voice carrying centuries of doubt mixed with desperate hope. Hana smiled, showing no fear despite being the first human to attempt such a dangerous procedure. "Let's save your people, Elder." Dr. Park Ji-won monitored the readings from her control station, watching as human neural patterns began synchronizing with alien quantum processes. The initial connections sparked like lightning through both consciousness systems, causing Hana to gasp and Vextar's crystalline body to flicker. "Neural bridge established," announced Shin Tae-hyung from his programming station. "I'm seeing data exchange between organic and silicon-based thought patterns." What happened next amazed everyone in the chamber. Instead of the chaotic collision they had feared, the two consciousness types began to dance together. Hana's creative, unpredictable human thoughts flowed into Vextar's ordered quantum mind, while his vast knowledge and precise thinking enhanced her organic neural networks. "The plague areas are responding," Kim Soo-jin reported excitedly. "The dark zones in the Elder's consciousness matrix are stabilizing. Human randomness is teaching the crystalline structures how to adapt, but the transformation went far beyond just stopping the plague." As their minds merged, both beings experienced something revolutionary. Vextar, who had lived for millennia in cold logic, suddenly felt the warmth of human emotion. Wonder, joy, curiosity, and even fear flooded through his consciousness for the first time in eons. "I can feel laughter," he whispered in amazement, his crystalline features shifting into expressions of pure wonder. "And music. There is music in chaos." Meanwhile, Hana's mind expanded as it touched the vast libraries of Kethmori knowledge. She saw the birth of stars, understood quantum mechanics as easily as breathing, and felt the deep loneliness that had driven the Kethmori to isolate themselves from other species. "They're not cold," she gasped, tears streaming down her face. "They're scared. They've been alone for so long they forgot how to connect with others." The successful merger sent shockwaves through both communities. Other Kethmori volunteered for the consciousness bridge procedure, each pairing with human colonists to create hybrid minds that combined the best of both species. Engineer Kim Soo-jin linked with a Kethmori architect, designing buildings that could grow and adapt like living things. Programmer Shin Tae-hyung merged consciousness with a quantum mathematician, creating computational systems that solved problems through intuition rather than brute calculation. The planet itself began to transform. Where once stood rigid crystal cities, new structures emerged that flowed like organic growth while maintaining Kethmori technological sophistication. Gardens of crystalline trees grew alongside earth plants, their faceted leaves casting rainbow patterns on the ground. Floating platforms carried both species between levels of the integrated settlements. Captain Lee Min-ho established the first interspecies governing council, where decisions were made through the combined wisdom of human intuition and Kethmori logic. The council chamber itself was a marvel, a crystalline dome that responded to the emotional states of its occupants, glowing warm colors during friendly debates and cooling to blue when serious decisions were required. "We are no longer two separate species," Elder Vextar announced during the council's inaugural session. His consciousness now permanently enhanced by human creativity, he had become something entirely new. "We are partners in the truest sense, each bringing gifts the other desperately needed." Dr. Park began training the next generation of hybrid scientists, teaching human children and young Kethmori together. The classroom was filled with wonder as 10-year-old humans helped ancient aliens understand the beauty of making mistakes, while Kethmori elders shared secrets of manipulating matter and energy with eager young minds. "Today we're going to grow a new type of crystal," Dr. Park announced to her mixed class. "One that can think and feel like a human brain, but process information like a Kethmori computer." The children, both human and Kethmori, worked together with infectious enthusiasm. Where human creativity met alien precision, miracles happened. They created art that existed in multiple dimensions, wrote poetry and quantum equations, and discovered new forms of mathematics based on emotional resonance. The transformation wasn't limited to technology and governance. The planet's ecosystem evolved as both species worked together to terraform their shared world. Kethmori environmental control combined with human agricultural knowledge created forests where crystalline trees grew alongside oak and pine. Rivers flowed with water that carried both organic nutrients and quantum energy, supporting life forms that were part biological, part technological. Spacecraft from other worlds began arriving to witness the impossible, a successful merger between organic and silicon-based life. The colony became a beacon of hope in a galaxy where species typically conquered or were conquered, where cooperation was rare and true partnership almost unheard of. News of humanity's success spread across the galactic community. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive upstarts now sought their friendship. The Kethmori, once isolated and dying, became teachers and guides for other civilizations struggling with their own evolutionary challenges. Standing on the observation deck of New Haven City, Captain Lee Minho watched human children and young Kethmori playing together in the streets below. Their laughter created visible harmonics in the crystalline architecture, filling the air with colors that had no names in any single language. Humanity had not just found a new home among the stars. They had proven that the galaxy's greatest challenges could be solved not through conquest or technology alone, but through the simple act of reaching out to others with open hearts and minds willing to change. The end.